men shall be bowed down, and the Lord alone shall be. This is talking about the day of the Lord. This is what your pride gives you, is going to reap for you when it all goes down. Again, Isaiah 2 verse 11, it says, the lofty looks of man shall be humble, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down. And the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. So you might as well get on the ship with the only person that will be exalted in that day. Verse 12, for the day of the Lord of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty. Again, that's the danger of inflated personal pride. It's in the day of the Lord of hosts. The Lord of hosts is one of God's names or one of God's personalities. The Lord of the heavenly host. It's basically saying that the whole heavenly host shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty. Talking about the dangers of inflated personal pride. And upon everyone that is lifted up, he shall be brought low. This is the Bible. The Bible is saying this. And upon all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and upon all the oaks of Bashan, and upon all the high mountains, and upon the hills that are lifted up, and upon every high tower, and upon every fenced wall, and upon the ships of Tarshish, and upon all pleasant pitches. And the loftiness of man shall be bowed down. The dangers of inflated personal pride. Talking about, the scripture says, Isaiah 2 and 17, and the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of man shall be made low. So all the big egos, all the folks that are puffed up, all the folks that are nose are in the air. God is saying this in verse Isaiah 2 and 17, and the loftiness of man shall be bowed down. That you're going to be humble. It's better to be humble before God decides to humble you. And the haughtiness of men shall be made low, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. Still talking about the dangers of inflated personal pride. Deuteronomy says in Deuteronomy 6 and 5, it speaks as follows. This is our position, and this is how you won't ever get into that danger zone. It says, and they shall love the Lord, thy God, with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. We never should love the Lord our God less than we love ourselves. And when I'm talking about the dangers of inflated personal pride, I'm cognizant that we're living in a day now where preachers are even have their share of inflated personal pride. And we don't pick whom God might speak to. We don't pick whom God's hand might truly be on, because we've now turned everything into a religious fashion show, a religious popularity contest of who's who, or who I can scratch my shoulders with, or who I can connect and network with in Christendom. And this is what God told me. God told me some very distinct things last night. He said, Steve, if God chose you, forget about all of the others who are winning the religious popularity contest. They don't have to know you as long as I know you. That's what God is saying. God is saying that we got to stop promoting ourselves, see me, and trying to blow up. As long as God knows that he's saying, I got you. That's where we're at. Talking about the dangers of inflated personal pride. And he said this. He said, my picks for this hour won't always be the folks who win all of the religious popularity contests. If you look at my word, I usually didn't choose as man chooses. Oh, I'm so glad that I got a God that even though my popularity ratings aren't great with men, that when he chose me, that he didn't consult men about whether he could use me. He didn't look to men to find out whether he could tag me and send me out on my mission. That I'm so glad that God doesn't pick as men picked. And he's still talking to me. He said, Steve, someone may not be a named preacher. It's someone that may not be a named preacher, but hears from God as clear as day. That's the person that people should be using. The person with the word for this hour might not be on the top of the popularity charts. The stone that the builders rejected sometimes becomes the chief stone of the corner. He said, if we're really Bible readers, most times the people that God chose to use were people that the religion contests with the pit. Religious popularity contests aren't always won by those who God's hands are on. I was thinking about that statement in its context, and I went to 1 Samuel 16, verse 7. It said, "But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance, or on the height of his stature, or his promo, or his PR, or how he looks, or his stature." He said, "Because I have refused him." Speaking of Saul. "For the Lord seeth not as man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." Oh, that's good gospel news on this morning, that God doesn't pick like man picks. That even though they can outspend you in the area of advertising, even though they got the media, even though they got the PR, that God doesn't pick as man picks. Even though they got 50,000 people that like their Facebook page and you can't get to, that God doesn't pick as man picks. It says again, "Man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." Then I was led to 1 Corinthians 1, verse 27. He said, "But God has chosen the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. And God has chosen the weak things of this world to confound the things which are mighty. And base things of this world, and things which are despised has God chosen, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are." He said, God was still talking to me last night. He said, "Steve, popularity most times pleases the flesh. So all preachers need to be on guard over how we can allow our flesh into spiritual things." He said, "Steve, you should rather look to be a powerful preacher than a popular one. One day popularity will wane, but God's power will never fail." Still talking about the dangers of inflated personal pride. Proverbs 15:33, and I'll finish there. Proverbs 15, the dangers of inflated personal pride. It reads as follows: "The fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility." That we want to have the thing that we call honor, that we have to have humility, that we have to abandon the excess or inflated personal pride. And the reason why we do that is found in Proverbs 16:18. "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Saints, I don't want you to fall. I don't want you to end up in destruction, and I don't want our inflated personal pride to take us into a fall. The dangers of inflated personal pride. Let's find our way to be humble. Let's find our way to take off all the things that this world tries to put on us. That in the glitz and the glamour of this world, let's find Jesus Christ. Let's follow his scripture. Let's humble ourselves under the mighty hand of God. Let's trust God to do all of the exalting. God bless you.